Okay. Hello. Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
Oh, good. Okay, guys. Welcome. Hello, everybody. I want to introduce you to my friend and inspirational blogger, Kelsey Aida. And I want to give you a little bit of framework around how this conversation came about because this is the first one I'm doing. Kelsey is one of my faves, and she and I share what we like to call conscious conversations frequently. And we've been chatting more in the light of the current stuff that we're kind of dealing with right now. And her content aligns with mine. She talks about happiness and um, raising consciousness and all these beautiful things. I'll let her introduce. But a couple of weeks ago, we were on a call and we were chatting about some of the content that we're going to bring up today. And we just said, you know what? Why don't we just get on screen and do this together in this way and share it and just kind of have this conversation out loud. And so that's where it's at right now. Kelsey, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do? I would love to leave
Yeah.
you. So
So basically, my title would be an inspirational blogger and author. And what I always like to say as like my elevator pitch is that I help people to own their power and win at life. And usually what this means is I'm teaching a lot about the law of attraction, manifestation, raising your vibration, feeling better emotionally, emotional healing and well-being. And all of this has to do with like our life experience. And so I like to help people realize their dreams as far as like their outer reality, but it all starts with your inner reality. And really, your life is not what happens around you, but it's how you experience what's happening to you. So, how can we consciously shape and mold our experience to be one that's really fulfilling, really profound, and includes a lot of great things and helps us to navigate through the hard things in the most graceful, what's the word I'm looking for? Effective manner. So that's kind of what I like to teach. I especially am passionate about teaching self-love and law of attraction. Those are like my two biggies these days.
yeah, and that's what attracted me to your work as well. Just to give you guys a little background on how I know Kelsey as well. I have a program where I help interns work with entrepreneurs. And a couple of years ago, I had a team of interns, and one of my most incredible interns of all of my life of working with interns for 12 years was Olivia Hen, which we should give a shout out to. And
What's up,
yeah,
girl?
yeah, she's working on a project that I had, a website that I had originally started with, that was called What Have I Learned? And it was all about how our biggest failures and mistakes lead us to our biggest life lessons and our biggest successes. It was a topic I really enjoyed talking about. And Olivia, was one of the head interns that worked on the website and put all the graphics together. She was incredible. And as she was working on it, she was like, you need to talk to my friend Kelsey because she's doing this work and she's incredible. And that's how we're here. So
It's so
thank
cute.
you, Olivia. Reach out to her or shout out to her. So I guess today, the first, one of the things that we talked about that I love so much on our last call was your perspective and the reframing that we were doing around the current situation that we're in. And how we were talking about what I call is an individual a ditch moment, right? So a ditch moment is a dark, difficult, challenging moment where we feel like we're in a ditch and we don't know how far down we are or how we'll ever get back out of it. And basically, life is about putting processes in place to get through ditch moments, and every ditch moment you get through helps you learn and grow and build and consciously become more aware and reflective and all these beautiful things that make us better people.
Love
And
it.
yeah, and how in this current state, if we choose to reframe it and put a mindset shift in place, we could say, okay, we know, accept, and believe that our individual ditch moments lead us to bigger things, right? It's the cocoon and the butterfly metaphor. And perhaps we're in a collective ditch moment right now. Perhaps that our globe is dealing with a difficult, challenging, dark moment that's a cocoon moment where it will lead us all to our higher level of ourselves, our consciousness. And that's kind of where it started. So with that said, what we kind of thought that might be interesting and valuable to you guys is to talk about some individual ditch moments and topics that have nothing to do with quarantine and coronavirus, and topics that might give us a break from our current status right now, and talk about some of those processes and lessons and growth moments that we've put in place to make those a valuable experience to us instead of just a dark moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
So one of the things that we talk about the most is relationship stuff. And I wanted
Because we're girls. We can't help it.
boys and relationships. Kelsey said we have 3 topics that we wanted to talk about today. And this one was purposely put on for me as the last one to address. And you were like, oh, let's just dig in. Let's just go to the 3rd topic first. So, okay. Thanks for pushing my boundaries, my dear, as usual.
That's what I do.
So I would love to just chat with you about one of your ditch moments in this space and kind of how you navigated through that and where your lessons came from.
Yeah. So I guess if we're going into the relationship stuff, my most recent ditch moment, as you would call it, was a really traumatic relational experience in the context of a romantic partnership. And I mean, the story is not really important, but the lessons are. So, like, some of the things that I learned from this experience are that we really do attract people who reflect how we treat ourselves. And so, this relationship was extremely emotionally abusive for me. And it was only until later that I realized that the way that he was treating me was how different parts of myself treat myself. So it was literally like the relationships inside of me playing out in real form between me and this person. So it's like every time he was criticizing me, that was just a reflection of every time I criticized myself. Every time he was bullying me, that was a reflection of how I bully myself. Every time he was saying how I feel doesn't matter, that was just a reflection of how when I do that to myself and I bulldoze over my own feelings. So that was like a huge aha moment for me. And shout out to my friend James, who is a sage, a guide, a shaman, and he helps me come to a lot of these realizations because he has like an eye for seeing what you can't maybe see about yourself. And so I did a lot of work with him, and that helped me to figure out, wow, this is really just a direct mirror of what I've been doing to myself. How can I stop doing this to myself so that I don't keep recreating these toxic patterns? And I think that will be, because if you're in one, like, please get out if you can. But the message here is like, there is value to be had from the experience because it showed me what I don't want to be doing to myself anymore. And then you can choose, okay, let's pivot and go in this direction. And that's when I really started mastering like the art of self-love and learning how to love myself on a deeper and deeper level. And it's not even that I'm perfect at it or that I'm like there, because there is no there, right? But I'm so much better than I was. Now I'm able to teach it really clearly to others. And I'm still going down the rabbit hole of self-love. Like, it just never ends.
Oh God, I'm so with you on this one. The self-love piece never ends. I love that you're saying that we're never, this is how I heard it, we're never really whole and complete, right? Because if we were whole and complete and we had it all figured out, and we had learned all the lessons and we were self-loved all the way so that we could call in our true love and all this bullshit that we hear sometimes, we wouldn't be continuing to learn and grow. Right?
Well, it depends on your perspective, because there's 2 different perspectives that are both true, even though they seem contradictory. Yeah. What you said, where it's like, we're never whole and complete, meaning like we're never fully healed, we're never like all the way perfect, we're never like there, is true from one perspective. But then from the other perspective, like, we're always whole and complete, and we like chose to be in this game to like do those types of things.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And this is this idea of, and I think we get this messaging, or we give this messaging to women, and I think, I don't want to give you your age away, but you're like a decade younger than me. You're like mid-20s, right?
Yeah.
And I am mid-30s. And I think, yeah. And from, from my perspective on all of this stuff is, we give this messaging to women, and we weren't even necessarily going to go down this track, but you've said something that caused me to kind of go there. But we give this messaging that you'll attract your true love when you really truly love yourself, right? And there's 2 sides of that coin too. That is also true, right? The more you love yourself, which is what you've learned through this whole experience, the more you love yourself, the more you'll attract somebody who really loves, respects, honors you, who is a reflection of the way that you see yourself. So having self-love and self-care and confidence and knowing your value and your worth the higher that is for you, the higher the person you're attracted to will reflect that. And also, we tell this to women, and sometimes this statement, while it has good intentions, still makes you feel like you're not enough, right? Because the whole part of being in a ditch moment and putting a process in place and getting through your ditch moments, and also just being in life and doing the work and learning and growing, is a part of that. I would like to be whole and complete, and let me keep working towards being whole and complete, right? And then also knowing I'm whole and complete and perfect. So it's all kind of like, I don't know, it can go either way.
It's like you have to hold space for both realities at the same time. I am whole and complete and I'm perfect just the way I am. And also I'm still growing, I'm still evolving, I'm still learning. There's no destination. I just keep going up. And I think like you're really right about how when we tell women to love themselves, like love yourself first, blah, 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 you're never going to like attract a soulmate until you're your own soulmate, which is like, there's truth to that. But at the same time, like people can't use that information against themselves to withhold partnerships and good experiences from themselves. Cause I know I've definitely been guilty of doing like, well, I'm not healed enough, I'm not ready enough. And maybe I was, maybe I wasn't, but it's like, at the end of the day, you have to go towards what you need and what you want. And maybe what you need is for another person to love you the way that you need to be loved. And I found that one of the best ways to discover how you want and need love is to start by experimenting with yourself. Like, how can I love myself? What feels good to me? What is something that I want someone else to do for me that I can start doing for myself? And starting with yourself, because that's the most empowering place to start. But you don't have to withhold good things from yourself because you feel like you're not there yet, or you feel like you're not healed enough, or you feel like you're not ready.
I think that's beautiful. And I think we do, coming back to this messaging too, is like, oh guys, sorry about that. Coming back to this messaging too, is like, there's a lot of women who want to, or men too, but women I think get this message more, is like, who want to be in partnership, who want to be in relationship, who want to be in love and all these things. And when we say this kind of stuff to them, it still makes you then feel, or I have experienced this in my past, it still makes you feel like, well, then I'm still not enough, right? It's exactly like what you're saying, like, I'm still not enough. And I think another message that's even more important to share on this topic is like, we are not meant to do life alone. We're not actually meant to do it alone. That's not what evolutionary biology would have us do. If we had to do it alone, and if we were always independent women doing all the things and figuring all the things out, we would not have survived as cave people. Like, we would not have survived without each other. So I think the message here is, it's okay to say, I don't want to do it alone. Like, I would like to have a partner, and I would like to be happy in a relationship that's healthy and functional. And I am also willing in the meantime to do the work to be the best version of myself and show myself the most love, so I attract the best reflection, right?
Yeah.
And so those are some sort of statements, affirmations, mindset shifts that you can utilize to get into the right vibration for this, right? So you talk about this stuff a lot too, and we're veering off of what we originally said we were going to talk about.
It happens. I feel like it's like you have to ask yourself, what's the most self-loving thing I can do? Is it self-loving for me to wait to enter into a partnership? Or if there's a good opportunity, is the more self-loving thing to like let it in, even if I'm a little scared and apprehensive?
Yeah.
You know, it's like you have to decide moment by moment, like depending on where you are emotionally, what's the most self-loving thing for me to do right now? To be alone or to pursue a healthy partnership?
Yeah. Yep. I agree with that. I used to always think, this is all new for me. And I've always kind of known I would be later at this, kind of conversation and at the gate for this kind of stuff, because as a even very young person, I always had this impression and this feeling that I was gonna do some business stuff and do some teaching stuff, and that do some travel stuff, and that my life experiences were going to be better if I was doing them independently. I don't know why or how I had that belief. It was just a belief for most of my life. Like, this is where I'm going to learn all my stuff. And I remembered when I was in high school and college, somebody told me one day, you are a serial monogamist, because I had gone through from like one relationship and then that like didn't end. I just went from like one to one to one. And I remember thinking like at 22, like, I don't like that label. It feels like not authentic to me. I'm not going to do that. And that's when I sort of made this decision. It, the I sort of made this decision like, hey, I'm going to try and figure stuff out on my own for a while. I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to be an independent person. And so I think as you learn and grow, I don't actually know what I'm trying to say here. You start to shift your beliefs, and it's okay. It's okay to think one thing and really buy into that belief. And then one day wake up and go like, this doesn't work for me anymore. And it doesn't have to mean anything. It just doesn't work for me anymore.
Not all lessons have to stay with you forever. Like, I feel like some lessons are just meant to be with you to carry you through a season, and then you can outgrow them and pick new ones anytime. I feel like we expect ourselves to be so rigid in that, oh, we believe this is true, so it must always be true. Like, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to think that way all the time. If you want to replace it with a completely different belief, if that feels more authentic to you in that moment, then do it. I mean, people might look at you funny or judge you or not understand you, but that's also not your problem.
Yeah.
That's their thing to work out.
So talk to me a little bit more about, I love all of that. Talk to me a little bit more about how you came to this understanding, and maybe how you could share it with people who are sort of new to this conversation, around all these ways that this person, this past situation was being to you that weren't really kind, where you were able to take that blind spot and sort of put it in front of you and be like, this is actually what's happening here. It's not about them. I can accept, I don't have to be angry. I don't have to be resentful. I can take ownership and responsibility of it without beating myself up, right? Because those are two different things. I'm happy to take ownership and responsibility for the experience I'm having in the world without beating myself up about it. How did you come to that acceptance that essentially this person was your teacher and you were cool with that? You didn't have to be angry or resentful around it.
Oh, I was angry.
At first, yeah, I
was angry. Then I was okay with it. I think that's the way that I got to that point of being okay with it, was going through how I was actually feeling. Because when that relationship ended, I was so mad. I was so devastated. I was so upset. I was so confused. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand why he left out of nowhere. I didn't understand when there's just a whole backstory that we don't need to get into, but like, basically I was never a part of the conversation where he decided to leave after all of this confusion. I'm going to stay. I'm going to go. I love you. Let's get married. Just kidding. You're ruining my life. Like, all of this inconsistent back and forth, non-committal, really emotionally abusive, confusing, mean, critical, all of that, like, really just broke me. Like, it broke me for sure. So I think I had to be broken open in a sense. And it was the really, really hard, uncomfortable emotions that I had to go through, like, all the way through in the most intense way in order to get to a space of like wisdom and clarity. And okay, this happened for a reason. Even though I don't like what happens, like, I'm still thankful for him on some level and for everything that he taught me. And now I'm going to use this to move forward in a way that is empowering. And now that I know what I don't want, I have so much more clarity about what I do want. And now that I know what doesn't work for me, I know what does work for me and what I need. Especially like when I chose my new partner, I had to really look and be like, okay, are these the qualities I didn't have in the last relationship that I can now obtain in this one? Because we all have needs, and it's just easier when you know what those are. And usually we figure out what they are from when we don't get them.
That's so beautiful. So let me talk about this just so we can give some framework around it. So basically, you were in this situation with somebody that heated up very quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
With somebody, fell in love. It appeared he fell in love. You were very connected. And then sort of just in a brief summary, just so everyone has an idea of it, what happened? Like, how did it break down?
Well, we were both in love with each other, but he has what do they call it? It's a really borderline personality disorder, which makes it really hard to maintain stable relationships. There's a lot of like narcissistic qualities. There's just a lot of trauma there that's unresolved. There's a lot of inconsistency. Just the whole thing about that is like really sad and really hard. And I didn't know this about him when I first entered into a partnership with him, because he was putting on this front of, I'm emotionally good, everything's stable, this is my dream, this is my goal, I'm ready to do this. I really admired him. And it just turns out that a few months later, like as soon as he had like an emotional breakdown, like shit hit the fan. And that was like the first red flag. But at that point, like I was already so committed that I was like, well, this is my partner. I'll do anything for them. Like, you know, through thick and thin, like I'll just pull the relationship while it's like down. That's fine. Like it's only temporary. And it turns out that it was just how he is. Unfortunately, it wasn't only temporary. I didn't know that until it was too late.
What was the timing on it, do you think? How far in was that?
That was a few months in. And the whole relationship only lasted like 8 months.
Yeah. So I like to look at these kinds of timelines too, because I feel like people that are new to dating, like I have a couple of clients that one of them is divorced and she's new to dating, and I'm teaching communication stuff. I teach happiness principles and communication stuff. And in the dating space, it always kind of, this comes up, right? Because this is like where you really learn some of this stuff. And I like to try and give some timelines on things. And I feel like, you know, you kind of have those initial, that breakdown in a relationship like this. Not surprising to me at all that it was basically a 9-month relationship. I don't know if have you done any studying on Alison Armstrong before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, like 9 months is kind of the make or break point at this point in our life sometimes. So these kind of relationships, in my experience too, they come in and out kind of quickly, and you get pretty quick, like within the first 8 to 9 weeks is when this first kind of a breakdown happens. Right. And so, okay, so keep going.
And then eventually, like long story short, he left the country to go back to where he was from. He was from another country. He moved here to live the American dream. It was really hard. I just figured, oh, it's hard to move here by yourself. So like, I'll be his support. Like we'll get through it together. And then he just, at the end of the day, he just couldn't cope and he went back.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And so he left without like an explanation, or?
No, he told me, and there was a few months leading up to it where he was really unsure if he was going to be able to stay. And of course, I'm just like a hopeless optimist. So I was just like, you know, it's going to be fine. Like, just look on the bright side. Everything's going to work out. And in the end, it did, but not the way that I imagined that it was going to, of course. And so when he left, it was like really devastating, and it created a huge like abandonment wound. And no matter how self-aware you are, like there's always a part of you that feels like, well, if I was better, he would have stayed. Or if I was better, he would have tried harder to stay, or whatever. That's just a natural conclusion that your ego comes to, like no matter what. So I definitely had to work through those types of thoughts and beliefs. And even still to this day, like I'm definitely working through forgiving myself for the whole situation, because there's a part of me that feels like if I completely forgive myself for tangoing with this person, because I take responsibility for my part in entering the relationship really quickly and not maybe doing my due diligence, because I didn't really know like how to enter a relationship consciously. I was just like, emotions, yay, just like going with the flow and getting all swept up in it. And so I think it's just like these days what I'm still working on is just forgiving myself for not knowing better, and not like holding myself so accountable where I'm like, you did this to yourself. And it's almost like a self-blamey energy, you know?
Yeah. So when you came through that, when you came out on the other side of that, if you could say, here's 3 things, or here's 3 mindset shifts, here's 3 principles, here's 3 actions I took to take me from this ditch moment of where I had an abandonment wound that came up, where this person was not treating me the way I deserve to be treated. What would you say those things are for people that are listening and they're like, dude, I'm in the middle of that right now, or I can totally relate because I've been there too. And yeah, what would you?
I would say one of the biggest things that I did that I think is really helpful for people is I was working with 2 different therapist type coach people. So I had one like more traditional therapist, and then I was working with my shaman friend James to just heal these huge like gaping wounds. Like I just feel like you can't just bulldoze through and move forward before doing that type of work, and it's really helpful to do it with support, especially if you haven't done it before, or you just don't know where to start, or you don't want to do it alone, you know. So I think one, just therapy is like an invaluable tool, any type of healing work. And two, like honestly, just facing my pain and getting comfortable with feeling these really uncomfortable energies in my body and just sitting with them for as long as I can to help really process them and integrate them and heal them so they don't keep coming back up. Because I feel like what most people do is they're like, oh, I don't want to feel this, I'll just jump into the next relationship so I don't have to think about how painful it is. And then they just keep recreating the same scenarios and the same scenarios because your emotion literally only wants to be felt. So if you deny feeling how you really feel, it's just going to keep coming up and tap you on the shoulder. Hey, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. And then if you're really suppressing it a lot, it's going to explode one day out of somewhere, and you might end up hurting someone else or saying things you don't mean or quitting your job, or I don't know, like it's really what I've learned is that it's really important to feel your feelings no matter how uncomfortable they are and how painful they are. Because actually, when you dive into them for a few minutes, they subside pretty quickly. Like we think that, oh, if I go into this deep dark hole, I'm never going to come out. And it's actually like, if you just go there, the faster you go there, the faster you're going to get out.
Yeah, no kidding. Totally.
That's what I've experienced.
100%. And when you say go dive deep into your feelings, how do you do that practically? Do you sit and meditate? Do you sit like one of the things that I used to do at my old place, I used to live in this beautiful little studio that was like a healing space for me. And when I moved out, I told the landlord, I was like, you need to sage the fuck out of this place and repaint, because I had a cocoon and a butterfly like 5 times in this place. And there's so much stuff that happened in this beautiful space. But I used to have practically, I would just have a yoga mat and I would roll it out and I would lay on it and just cry and bawl and yell and scream and just feel all the body emotion around it and just let it all come out. I did that in many occasions over the last couple of years, that's my expression, just feeling the feelings so that you do not hold them back. You do not resist them. You do not ignore them, because they will not go away.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You cry, you scream, you throw things, you hit things, you angrily journal, you say how you feel, you try not to jump out of your skin while all this is happening, and practice like emotional escapism, which I definitely have been great at also in the past. And I think it's really just about embodying the emotion. So how can you let it live through your body? Like, what does your body want to do when you feel that way? Does it want to cry? Does it want to scream? Does it want to punch something? Does it want to go for a run? Like, what is it that you need to do to work through the emotion instead of running from the emotion?
Yeah, working through it and sitting in it instead of running from it.
Which sucks, but it's totally worth it.
It's totally worth it, because it's exactly like what you said. It just keeps tapping you on the shoulder. So the quicker you can just deal with it and manage, and not manage it, actually just deal with it and sit in it and feel it and let it come up. And this stuff is all like when you're doing this work all the time and you're kind of obsessed with this type of work, which, you know, we are. And I say that with a positive, like I'm obsessed with why people do what they do. And I'm obsessed with learning all of this stuff to support other people and chat about it the way we're doing. It kind of sounds like bullshit when you've not done it before, when you're new to the practice. It sounds like, or at least it used to for me many years ago, like, this is all bullshit. You guys sound ridiculous. Spiritual woo-woo, like self-love, kiss my ass. Like, I don't feel like my emotions. What the fuck does that even mean? Excuse my language. Like, all this stuff is how I used to sound. And those feelings, those voices still come back up. But in doing the work, I think we can both promise you that in consistently attempting to do the work, it does actually make it easier and better. And you do grow.
Yeah. And like, I resist the work. I think naturally nobody wants to be in pain. So of course we're going to do everything we can to avoid that at all costs. But it's like, if you're always running from pain, then you're never fully free, because pain is like an an inevitable part of the human experience. So instead of trying to run from it all the time, what if you had the tools and the practice to be able to just like not deal with it or not manage it, but to just tend to it when it comes, so that you can like mother your pain and nurture your pain instead of pushing it away, which is like impossible and never fully like helps anything or anyone. So, and also like, because my ex was so, I don't want to say emotionally damaged because that sounds mean, but because he was so hurt and traumatized and he was in so much pain, that was why he caused other people around him pain. That was why he caused me pain. So I took almost as long as I was in that relationship to process what happened in that relationship and to make sure that I wasn't going to inflict my pain on the next person that I was with. Because pain is like a disease. Like one person gives it to this person, and then that person gives it to that person, and then that person gives it to that person. So I wanted to be the person that stopped the chain, you know, and I did it to the best of my ability, but like I still sometimes project things onto my partner and compare him to my last partner, which causes him pain. Like it's inevitable that we're going to cause each other pain, but at least like I feel like I tried to not do it to the degree that my ex did it to me. I wanted to be more conscious, more aware of that, and not put my pain on other people. And the only way to do that is to deal with it yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we're going to talk about this in another one of our videos too, but it's a good lead into this idea of how do we come from a place of love instead of fear? How do we shift from love instead of fear? And some of the ways in which I've navigated dealing with this kind of relationship in my own life was to look at this person, and I think this is a longer conversation. I know we want to kind of keep it at this timing, so we'll do this in the next one. But this idea of how to deal with someone's inner child, and how, like I say this to my clients, my students all the time, happy people are nice people. Like life is really that simple. Happy people are nice people. Happy people want what's best for you. They want to love and support you. And unhappy people within themselves are the ones that, you know, hurt people, right? So we can talk about that more, I think, in the next thing, but there's some more stuff here on how you kind of navigate hurt people and where that hurt comes from, and inner child content and how to navigate that, I think could be another chat for us.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've definitely been getting more in touch with my little baby Kelsie and learning how to take care of her better. I think it's important to give your inner child a name. Not important, but it's fun and helpful.
Totally.
You know? My little baby Kelsey running around.
Baby Kelsie, my inner child's name is Petunia. That's what my mom used to call me. So one of my sisters was like, okay, when we deal with her, that's who we're going to talk to. That's who the name is for her. So
cute.
Yeah, she has temper tantrums sometimes, for sure.
Oh, we all do.
Well,
the crazy thing is when... Oh, sorry. I was just going to elaborate on the whole inner child thing and say the crazy thing is when your inner child is navigating your life and you don't even realize. Like unconsciously, the inner child is like at work and you're like, what the fuck?
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is a much bigger discussion that we could probably encapsulate in, 20 minutes and really give you the breakdown of what that inner child word means, how it shows up, how it runs the show, how it was sort of orchestrated, how to navigate those beliefs. This is one of the topics I enjoy talking about the most because I think it's so valuable to understand how that works. And we just don't get taught this stuff. This is not anything, nobody really understands that unless you're doing this work all the time, how to take your inner child and uncover and adjust and all these good things. So I think we're good for today. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. If you guys need any help with your self-love journey, you can find me on KelsieAida.com. I actually created an online course called Radical Self-Love, which is probably like the best thing ever for this type of emotional healing because I put all the practices that I've done and that have helped me into this course in a really like simplified but still really profound way. So you guys can check that out too. I think it's just radicalselflovecourse.com. That's another
Beautiful
good resource
website.
for you guys.
Check Kelsie out. She has incredible content. She is a blessing to this planet, a fellow light worker. We love her. And I think that's it for today.
Yeah. Thanks for chatting, girl. See everyone later.
Bye.